Drew McIntyre returned to WWE earlier this year.
That I didn't come back to Raw alone.
Oh my God! It is! It's Drew McIntyre!
So here is Wrestling Origins Drew McIntyre. Andrew Galloway studied at Prestwick Academy and also studied at the Glasgow Caledonian University, where he received a degree in criminology. He began to train to compete in wrestling at the age of 15 while with the Frontier Wrestling Alliance Academy until he and his family moved to Portsmouth in England. He was trained by the likes of Justin Richards, James Teague, and the promotion's owner and operator Mark Sloan, among others. After a couple of years of development, he emerged with a character that in some regards wasn't unlike current WWE 205 Live competitor Brian Kendrick. The Drew Galloway had a very self-involved and self-assured persona that exuded confidence. Perhaps because he was still at the young age of 17, displaying such confidence was something he needed to do in order to stand out. He was awarded the British Championship Wrestling Heavyweight title when then champion was fired and stripped of the belt. Despite being unsuccessful in defending the title, being thrust into a major angle with the company was certainly a beneficial opportunity. Galloway would go on to have matches against notable former WWE talent such as D'Lo Brown, the Honky Tonk Man, and Marty Jannetty while touring the independents in the UK. He further made a name for himself by facing the likes of future WWE UK talent Wolfgang and the future WWE champion Sheamus. With each match and each exchange, he was more and more in demand. He committed the better part of 6 years to compete for promotions such as Irish Whip Wrestling, British Championship Wrestling, and All-Star Wrestling. Drew seemingly competed for every notable UK promotion, eventually joining Insane Championship Wrestling, which was run by Mark Dallas. Soon he became the promotion's inaugural ICW Heavyweight Champion. It was not too long before he had a successful trial with WWE, resulting in his moving to Florida and competing for WWE's developmental program Florida Championship Wrestling. In developmental, he began to adjust to the North American style of wrestling. While there is his character, which wasn't clearly defined and little resembled what it used to be, that 17-year-old kid that referred to himself as the Drew Galloway was put aside, eventually replaced by a more mature yet intense persona which reflected who he was. Eventually, Galloway captured the Florida Championship Wrestling Heavyweight title, and he continued to use his first name but replaced his last name with McIntyre. After a couple of years in FCW, he was elevated to WWE's main roster. When he did arrive, he joined the SmackDown roster and was given a WWE Intercontinental title run. Quickly, he was moving up the ranks of the company, given he was being used in a prime position as a championship threat. He was called the Chosen One, selected by Mr. McMahon as the one to carry the company forward, a future world champion.
This man, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be a future world heavyweight champion. With that in mind, allow me to introduce you from Scotland. Here is Drew McIntyre.
To be put in that position, it's clear that there was something about him that stood out. During that time in 2007, Galloway had a much different look. He was a clean-cut and well-groomed man, which is very unlike what we see today in the ring. His debut saw him attack R-Truth, and he would continue to do so over a number of weeks. The Intercontinental title wouldn't be the only championship he captured during his early tenure with the company. After Mr. McMahon was removed from TV, Galloway was taken off television as well, in part to deal with work visa issues. When he returned, he aligned himself with Dash and Cody Rhodes, and the duo captured the WWE Tag Team titles in a 5-team Tag Team Turmoil match at Night of Champions. The team was short-lived, and he was moved back into singles competition. At the 2010 Survivor Series, he was the last man standing for his team before being eliminated. His good looks and charm led to being given a character that wasn't unlike the character Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, but instead of trying to woo Belle, the object of his affection was Kelly Kelly. Much like Gaston in the film, he was rejected for his efforts. The next storyline that Galloway was involved in was a losing streak. The streak began after being drafted to Raw with a loss to Kofi Kingston. In fact, he was rarely seen on television, often appearing in pre-show matches or dark matches. In December of 2011, his losing streak came to an end when he defeated Justin Gabriel. At that point, he was moved back to SmackDown and put under pressure to succeed by then General Manager Teddy Long. After losing consecutive matches once again, Long terminated his contract as part of a storyline. However, that was short-lived as guest General Manager John Laurinaitis reinstated Galloway, who then defeated Hornswoggle, ending his losing streak.
John Laurinaitis and David Otunga delivering the message. Come on, let him do this. Come on, just pin the guy and get it over with. Put him out of his misery, for God's sake.
McIntyre just screaming at Colin.
That win led to him being added to Laurinaitis' team at WrestleMania in a 12-man tag team match to determine control over Raw and SmackDown. This provided Galloway with a new opportunity to succeed. He would once again be granted a chance to be seen as a meaningful character within the brand and someone that could be trusted upon in one brand's feud against the other. Would this ultimately be the re-emergence of Drew McIntyre? It appeared as though for every step forward, Galloway took 2 steps back. He continued to be used on Raw and SmackDown, but mostly lost. He was then added to a Gold Rush tournament to determine the first ever NXT champion when FCW was changed to NXT. During that tournament, he lost to the eventual champion Seth Rollins. After returning to the main roster, he and Jinder Mahal teamed for a match against Heath Slater and Brodus Clay. They attacked Clay and in the process planted the seeds for what would soon become 3MB, or the 3-man band.
Drew McIntyre. Mahal and McIntyre hit the ring, and now they're assaulting Brodus Clay. And now Heath Slater's involved.
And the numbers game too much for Brodus Clay to overcome here.
A 3-on-1.
The trio remained together for a couple of years, generally losing their matches. Finally, he would be released in June of 2014. After his release, it appeared as though the creative shackles were off, and he began to compete on the indie circuit under his real name. In his return to ICW, fans showed their support for him loudly. It should also be noted that he was inducted into their Hall of Fame this past year. He began taking bookings for every notable promotion around the world. In North America, Evolve came calling. In fact, he captured the Evolve title in his debut, defeating current WWE NXT star Cassius Ohno. But Evolve wasn't the only promotion booking Galloway. Companies such as Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Lucha Libre, AAA Worldwide, AAW, House of Glory, Rev Pro, and Westside Extreme Wrestling were also companies that employed him. In 2015, TNA Impact Wrestling brought him in, and he aligned himself with Micah, Tonga Loa in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Eli Drake. This represented a return to weekly TV as well. During his time with the company, he engaged in feuds with the likes of EC3 and Kurt Angle. By this point, he was a very different talent from the one that had departed from WWE in 2014. His time traveling the world and getting in the ring with an array of different talent led him to become a more seasoned veteran. In February of 2017, he left Impact Wrestling and did a few dates with other promotions. When Galloway was seen on screen sitting ringside at the NXT TakeOver Orlando event in April of 2017, it was no joke, and was the culmination of a potential return that had been rumored. After the event was over, it was announced that he had re-signed with the company and would appear in NXT moving forward. While still in the midst of fulfilling independent bookings, he reported to the company's performance center and began appearing on screen at NXT tapings less than 2 weeks later. A few months later, he would challenge then NXT champion Bobby Roode for the NXT title at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3 and captured the title. Only 4 months after his return to the company, he was NXT champion. His title reign was short-lived, however, ending a few months later. He lost the title to Andrade Cien Almas, and in that same match suffered an unfortunate injury, a bicep tear. The injury would sideline him for several months.
There's something go in my arm and my bicep, elbow area. From experience, no, it's probably not good, but...
As it turned out, that loss would be his last match in NXT, as his return from injury coincided with a change in direction. A week after WrestleMania 2018, McIntyre made a surprising debut on the main roster by appearing on Raw alongside former US and Intercontinental Champion Dolph Ziggler. His arrival was met with a great deal of fanfare, as it represented his return after 4 years of being away from Raw. Galloway and Ziggler attacked Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil in their debut as a team. As each week passed, their alliance only appeared stronger and more dangerous. It was their goal to change the face of the company and make things uncomfortable for everyone around them. With Galloway by his side, Ziggler defeated Seth Rollins and captured the Intercontinental title for the 6th time. Galloway is primed to move further up the card on the Raw roster. His promos continue to show the fire that he has been building in him since his departure. His push has been long overdue, and he could easily contend for not just the Intercontinental title but the WWE Universal Championship as well. At 6'5", 270 pounds, Galloway is primed to show that he was exactly what he began his WWE career as, and that's the chosen one. And this was Wrestling Origins Drew McIntyre. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I'll see you later with more wrestling videos.